It's time now for a look at what's making international headlines, and we can say hello once again to Deeptika Laurent.
Hi, Delano.
Good to see you again. Now, you're starting out with the Italian elections that are underway in 4 days' time.
That's right, this weekend. That's right, and these upcoming elections, at least according to the Italian daily paper Corriere della Sera, reflect a nation more politically divided than ever. Now, in this article, the writer compares the election to another one that took place on April the 18th, 1948. In that election, that they pitted Rome's pro-Western government against the communists, and back then the CIA even intervened to give a sort of helping hand to the Western-led government. Well, now, instead of the U.S., Italian political forces are pushing for a friendship with Russia. In some cases, some of them even want deeper bilateral ties with Moscow. The editors at the Wall Street Journal call Italy the new sick man of Europe. They say there are really three options, or three outcomes from this election. Either the center-right coalition wins outright, or they have to form an alliance with the center-left, or the anti-establishment five-star movement get enough votes to prevent any stable coalition. In any case, for the Wall Street Journal, nothing will change much from this election. I quote, "Even France produced a reformer like Emmanuel Macron, yet Italy's political class can't stir up a single compelling candidate."
Now, one man who will not be running in Sunday's election is former disgraced Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi.
He can't run, actually, because I think he would have liked to have run if he could. He won't be running because of a ban on public office over criminal charges in the past, but he has endorsed Antonio Tajani as Prime Minister if his party wins on Sunday. Now, the Italian news agency ANSA actually held a Facebook Live with Silvio Berlusconi yesterday, in which he said that he'd be available to be Prime Minister next year because his ban expires in 2019. And if ever the elections are inconclusive, they could go back to the vote next year, in which case he'd actually be eligible to run. At the age of 83, mind you.
I know, seriously. Moving on to Israel next, one of our top stories here on the program. And the Church of the Holy Sepulchre has reopened its doors after 3 days, after Israeli authorities have scrapped this tax which they proposed.
That's right, and the Jerusalem Post Israeli paper says it was really due to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu personally intervening to suspend that tax. The church closed its doors on Sunday in protest, among other things, over Jerusalem municipality's decision to collect tax on church-owned properties that are not used as houses of worship. It drew a lot of backlash, and after Netanyahu intervened, the church agreed to reopen. The changes aimed to protect Jerusalem homeowners whose homes are built on church-owned land. But it did, as I say, draw outrage, especially from the Arab world, which accused Israel of threatening the presence of Christians in the Holy Land. The Gulf News accuses Israel in this editorial of the, quote, unceasing attempts to Judaize occupied Jerusalem and wipe out Christian and Islamic heritage.
Okay, we're switching gears now and heading on over to China, where the government continues its crackdown on dissent. This time, they're blocking certain words
and letters, which I'll explain in a second. This comes, of course, after China removed the two-term limit on presidential mandates. The Guardian reports that now Xi Jinping is looking to ban a whole bunch of words that indicate some sort of dissent. You also have George Orwell's masterpieces Animal Farm and 1984 that are banned in China now, and words like disagree, immortality, and emigrate. And also there's another word, Xi Zedong, which is a hybrid of Xi Jinping and Mao Zedong that is also banned in China, as well as Winnie the Pooh, because he's often compared physically to Winnie the Pooh. Now, bafflingly, the letter N is also out now, hence the headline from The Guardian, Caesared instead of censored. No one really knows why, but perhaps it's something to do with that. The fact that N terms in office is greater than 2 now, of course, with them removing these presidential limits, but it's still very unclear.
Winnie the Pooh. You can't ban Winnie the Pooh. You're staying in Asia next, and you found a report from Reuters that alleges that Kim Jong-un and his late father used illegal Brazilian passports to travel to the West back in the 90s.
That's right. 5 senior Western European officials have told Reuters that the Kims used Brazilian passports under the names of Joseph Puag and Lee Jong-choi to get visas from foreign embassies showing, I quote, a desire for travel, possible attempts to build an escape route. They plan to visit Brazil, Japan, and Hong Kong. Now, Brazil says it's investigating this. It's unclear if any visas were issued. But it once again sheds light on how mysterious the Kims are. We know very little about the North Korean leader. We do know, for instance, that he studied in Switzerland, where he pretended to be the son of an embassy chauffeur.
And finally, from you, Deepika, some good news for those of us who like to sleep in, unless you're working on this shift, where you come in at the crack of dawn.
Clearly, this story doesn't apply to any of us on the set here. We know that late sleepers who sleep around 3 a.m., wake up around midday, often get a bad rap. They're called lazy, deadbeats, can't hold a job, party animals. Well, scientists have now weaned into the debate, saying that these traits are determined by genetics. They argue that these people have a biological clock that's naturally set to a later time, and it's up to us, society, to be more accepting of them.
Indeed it is. Deepika Lawan, thank you very much for that press review. We're going